Briggy, it's Jamie, mate. How you doing? Oh, mate, I'm not a ref. You can relax. It's okay. Just had a couple of questions. Look, a few of the boys in my Discord group, they've been wanting to know this question. There's been obviously an incredible month from Tarpany, and I'm starting to see a little bit of a trend with your boys actually in the NFL fantasy realm. I know you care a lot about how our teams go, but just I'm seeing that a bunch of you guys they sort of have 3 to 4 good weeks there, 2 to 3, and we start to get a bit excited about them, and we pick them up in our team, and then you just change your mind and something happens, and a few of the guys are they're on their last straw with you, Sticky. I just wanted to get your thoughts around Joey. He's had an incredible 3 to 4 weeks there, and the minutes have been great. He's really stepped up as players. Anything changed tactically? Are you thinking about doing anything over the next couple of weeks to change his role, because he's been spectacular and we want him to keep going. There's definitely going to be a bunch of guys that are following at the moment that are looking to pick him up. Do you think anything's going to change? Oh, yep. Okay. You're saying you're going to give the horse 20 more minutes. All right. Tarpany back down to 45. Okay. Cheers, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks for your support. As always, great chat. Thanks for the yelling. Awesome. Bye. Whew. Something, but plenty of information for the boys. Joey Tarpany. Do we see the patterns here? Are we seeing it? Every chance that Adam Elliott, for example, guys, goes back down to 35 minutes in a second or gets a bench roll or gets dropped with how well he's been playing. And you see this with Tarpany as well. He does this, guys, on a regular basis. This 3 rounds, we'll give it 4 with the 53 in round 11 up until round 14 there. He's been, he's done this over the years. He'll go for a bunch of good games in a row or the one off, one on. And this is clearly the best he's been playing. And if we believe that he's going to continue doing this, then this is the last chance to get him. He's going to be way up in the 800s over the next few weeks. If he can continue these, just big 200 meter games and get the odd tackle break and offload like he has been, then he's going to be averaging somewhere in the low 60s. And if he can do that, he's priced about 100k under where he should be. So I understand that there's going to be a few guys looking to pick him up this week, and just the main worry is that phone conversation I just had with Ricky Stewart there, if you weren't sure who that was. But that's our only worry, I think. It's just how his role changes in any way, shape or form. Does it happen like this over the next bunch of weeks, and then Papali'i's back in action? They do have everyone on deck. That's the thing, and just if you trust that he can do this on a weekly basis and not go back to these up and down scores where he gets the 46 minutes, he gets the even the 53 for 49 points, that kind of stuff is the slightly annoying bit for him. But overall, if he can continue getting mid 50 minutes, I think that he'll continue scoring well. So if you want to go for him, even with the bye coming up in 17, then he's going to be a really solid one for you to pick up. So that's Joey Tarpany in our buy, hold, sell starter there. Ezra Mam, a clear buy this week, owned by 69 out of the top 100 there, 60% overall. Has a nice low break even there. Without Reynolds playing this week, he's also a very, very solid option to play this week in your 17. So a bunch of us have been doing it of recent time anyway, and picked up another try and a try assist on the weekend, so he really gets involved. Tackling is okay for him. He's missed 8 tackles in the 3 games, which for a young half is not too bad at all. The run meters are there, which is cool. And, might kick a little bit as well, like he did last week, next to Tyrone Roberts. So, Ezra Mam, good buy this week if you need to downgrade someone so you can upgrade elsewhere. Taumalolo, I think, again, this is going to be the lightest and the cheapest that you'll get him at 573k. Even without him playing in 17, we've had that 2 light weeks. Oh, wow, I was saying he got 21 and then 20, and then 8. He actually got 20, even worse. But those 3 light games in a row coming into a 69 and a 66, I can see big minutes in the 60s for him, which should be able to get him somewhere in the mid-50s average. And if that's the case, then he'll be close to 200k undervalued. If you pick him up now, you get him for, he only misses the 1 week. So if you can cop a miss in round 17, I think you can pick, and you're someone, this is the really important part, that if you're a team that has a lower team value and you need that slightly cheaper guy who could potentially get up to a 55 average, and you need that little bit of a team value bump, then I think Lolo is going to be a cracking option for you, considering his average is 46.5. He's had a bit of a rougher patch, but that's the way to go with him. And very similar to Brian To'o at 555k, this should be the cheapest you get him. He's coming off some decent scores, right? A 48 with a try and then a 76 with a 2-try effort. So obviously this is how he scored a lot of his points last year, was, hit the heap of tries that he did score, but he was also just in the high run meters. And there's a game there in 48 minutes he had in round 2, obviously when he was injured, he had the 110, but he's still up there in the big run meter category. The last 2 weeks have been a lot better, the 270 and the 170. So if he can stay anywhere above the 170 mark, he should be able to get involved a lot more with Cleary playing. That was the main issue. He got, was he on the left at the start? Yeah, he was actually. He was on the left, but they were without Cleary at that time. So when Cleary's in their team, they're absolutely banging. And now that he's there, he's going to be on the right. They got Crichton there as well. They've got plenty of firepower on both sides of the wicket, so I think that he's going to continue to do well. And if you can see some scores like last week, he's actually playing a lot better at the moment. Then To'o is your man to go, even without him playing 17 as well. McInnes is a clear best mid option, I believe, at the moment. 708k. You can pick him up as a guy who's going to average around the mid 50s, I would say, at a pretty consistent clip. And you're getting him at a slight discount at 708. Still not owned by everyone, so a slight pod, because we saw what happens with Payne Haas last week. He was owned by 52%, and if you owned him, you definitely lost ranks this week. So McInnes at that half ownership, 42% of the top 5k, 65% of the top 100. Pretty well going to need him. If he continues to average 60, he's going to be 100 or so k up, and could damage a lot of your teams. A few people asked about Finucane. He's going to play in the front row, I believe. When he comes back. McInnes is starting to play some of his best footy. All right, let's not talk too much about Burton. If you don't have him, try and get him, please. I don't, and I really want him and need him at 814k. He's just a game breaker. You look at those last 6 rounds there: 82, 44, 74, 65, and 73. And 83. Jesus, 5 last 6. He's been absolutely killer. Obviously, a few tries in there, but kicking the goals again and getting the try assist at least each and every week. And if the Dogs can play as well or close to as good as what they've done in previous weeks, then he's going to be so important and very much overly owned. And if you don't own him and he continues to do what he is, you're just going to fall by the wayside. So Burton, very much a must-have. Get him in your side if you can. All right, Volkman's a big important one this week. Obviously, with the Warriors not going to be playing in round 17 is a slight issue, but him at 220k, you might be able to get him and make a fair bit of cash. So if you need a cash out this week, who you're not worried about him missing one game, then Volkman could be your man. He could play the rest of the season, to be honest. With what have we got? Chance? No. Chanel. Say the wrong one. Harris Tavita not playing next year. He's choosing to move on and do other things. Then Volkman gets his opportunity now, is what I wanted to say there, and should be in there for the rest of the year if he plays well. If he doesn't play well, then you're not going to make any money anyway. So it's up to you whether you want to wait this week, pick him up at 18. Could be about 300k if he plays well. So that's that. Averillo, big question mark here for him is, again, him not playing in round 17. So yes, he's played the last couple of weeks at fullback, 36 and 56. He won't play a gooder game as last week, considering they absolutely pummeled the Eels. He comes up against an average team in Tigers and then Sharks and Bunnies over the next bunch of games. So he'll come up against some better outfits. The break-even's low, but not playing in 17 at a not super cheap price and hasn't got the runs on the board at fullback is my worry with Averillo. So you can pick him up if you want, but I think he's on more of the maybe/hold list. All right. Clem, great buy, obviously, but 786k is pretty high now. So we're getting him at a mid 50s, mid to high 50s average price there. He's been super consistent, obviously, since round 6, really, which is when he come back, and he's played big minutes and got big points apart from a 45. So if you think you can average somewhere around the 60 mark, you can get him in now and he'll play every game for the rest of the year, but completely up to you whether you want to get him now that he's about 786 rather than under 700. So I'd go McInnes over him, just personally, but still a good option. All right, we're on to the holds now, and Tohu Harris is 624. So you're getting him, like, if you're selling him now, you're selling him at a price of the mid 40s, and I think that's a silly trade out when Tohu can easily average the 80 minutes and get scores in the mid 50s, 60s, as you saw in a couple of these games. He got a 50 in 70 minutes, a 59 in the 80, and then has had 2 light ones there. So obviously come off early in those ones, but when they're getting pumped, there's really not too much else that he can do. But the tackles need to go up. If we can get him in the mid 40s like he used to being, always over 40, have games in the 50s, I think he'll be fine. Just treat it as what we saw with Josh Jackson a couple of weeks ago. Just didn't have a great game. We saw that in the 31. The 42 wasn't great, right? Had the 3 missed tackles, but just the overall output, the 31 tackles is at least 10 lower than we're used to him getting. If he gets that and only misses 1 more tackle for 4 misses, which is pretty high for him, then he's still at that 50 mark. So I think Tohu's fine. Just hold on to him. You got the dual position as well. That's it. Aiken, so we get him at a 48.5 average, 629 now, so he's priced under that average, and obviously a couple of quieter weeks, the last bunch, which can, understand why people would be steering away from him. But he's also played 70 minutes 2 weeks ago and 58 this week. So obviously the high HIA killed him, and he's off and out this week. So I can understand why people were moving on. But the 38 in that time, he had the couple of tackle breaks. He had 3 offloads in that time, which was pretty crazy for him. Just really trying to get involved and help his teammates out. So if you can hold on to him, I think that would be a good idea. He is a keeper centre. If you have a bunch of guys, whether it's Joey Manu and Burton and that, who you want to play in the centres and you don't want Aiken in your side, he misses 17, so I can understand why. Or if you have a lot of trades, if you have 13 plus trades, then you could do an Aiken trade out this week and just see what happens and potentially get him back in 18 or 19 if you wanted to. Another hold this week is Adam Reynolds at 803k. He gets this week off. He gets an extra week with rep round, which is in between round 15 to 16 to rest his ribs. So I think he's going to be well needed the rest of the season. The Broncos are playing great. He'll come straight back into that side. On the weekend he was 50 in 59 minutes, and that's just through generally base stats, a few tackle breaks here and there with the goals that he kicks as well. So he's going to be someone that's going to average in the mid 50s to 60, I'd say, and is going to be really important. So if you trade him out now, I think you're trading out a strong top 3, top 5 keeper in the halves, and I think that's a silly idea. Okay. Tungo, I think he's a hold this week. They come up against Warriors. Yes, he scored much better at the start of the year, which is fine. He hasn't done incredibly well since. A 67 and a 49 in there amongst some mid to low 30s. But I think this week is the one to hold, and then you can move on next week. So completely up to you. If you have a very important trade to make, I can understand why you need to downgrade him and upgrade elsewhere. But if not, if you've got nothing pressing, I'd be holding this week and make a decision from there. Very much the same with Taylor May. Not much more to say on him apart from, he's got that wing fullback cover, which is a little bit nicer than the Tungo edge and center cover. And he plays up against the Warriors this week, which they could have a bit of a field day. Sorry to Warriors fans, but it could happen. Please like, subscribe, guys. Appreciate it. Jump in that Discord group as well. Grant Anderson. So, had a good game, right? Scored 2 tries, a couple of line breaks. Pap's coming back, though, and he's the most likely guy to move on. And yes, he's going to be playing this week, but Paps will be back the week after next. So, with him being out for COVID this week, then that's the theory. So I wouldn't be touching Grant Anderson personally. All right, we move to, continue on with the holds here in Maxi King. And, he's been scoring super well, owned by the majority of people, and this is why, because he continues to score well. He's going to make some money as well over the next few weeks, 59, 56, and 60 the last 3. We don't move him on until his role changes, and I don't see it changing this week, but it could when Luke Thompson comes back. So he's probably a trade out in 17 there for Maxi. Nat Butcher as well, let's wait until we see what happens with him. If he gets another week of 40 minutes, we can probably move him on next week. If he gets good minutes and a good score, probably around 17 is the way to go with Butch. But that 69 obviously moved to the edge. We see what he can do when he plays big minutes. Last 2, Payne Haas, I think, is potentially a sell this week. If you have anywhere around the 12 trades and above, I think he's a sell. You can get him back a little bit later at a cheaper price if you need to. We're not sure if he actually even plays this week, so that's the worry. We've obviously got scores of 43, 45, 53, 58, and 24 in the last 5, which is not nice at all if you're looking at a guy that was averaging in the mid 60s and priced that way. You can see here the top 5,000 still owning him. The top 100 are removing him game by game. He was 52% before, at the end of last week and now 43. So I can understand why if you have a bunch of trades, you could move him on and potentially get him back. So he's priced in the low 50s now, but he could get a lot lower than that, which would be pretty cool in around 18 or 19. Hopefully when both his shoulders are a bit better, because at the moment they're both pretty well stuffed. And the last one there is Jackson Hastings. I just think that could be done for the next bunch of weeks, really. You might have to get an odd game of rest too. He's had the 2 weeks off and still didn't score well, unfortunately. 30, 21 and 29 the last 3 weeks. Not good enough. He's kicking way less. The numbers are down. He's running the ball similar amount. Tackles are down a little bit as well and missing a few more. Just the foot's not right, and I think if we keep holding on to him, he could be down the 400s too quickly. Yes, he plays in around 17, but it's just a killer. Still owned by a fair bit in the top 100, which is strange. But yeah, that's it with Hastings. And I hope you enjoyed the little skit at the top, guys. I'll keep thinking of random bits and pieces to do. But as always, I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll catch you in the next one, guys, when we talk about some trades, really.